What's up, guys? It's Ben in Parts here. Welcome back to episode 50 of this Cryptid cast series, where we discuss cryptids, their sightings, their possibilities, what they could or couldn't be, and if they could be real or not. And today we have yet another Lumberjack cryptid, one of those cryptids that was sighted often by woodsmen in the 18th and 19th centuries when they were logging America, and even into the 20th centuries. One of those cryptids that came around when American frontiers were expanding and cities were being laid down. And today we have the bald-tailed cat. Ball-tailed cat. These days, the ball-tailed cat is said to be extremely rare. At one point, it was meant to have been prolific across America, according to the legend, but recent surveys, it's not mentioned what those surveys are said to indicate that now it's pretty much only confined to Harney County in Oregon and Sullivan County in Pennsylvania. And as usual, I'm sourcing the material from this cryptid from Fierce Critters of the Lumberwoods by Henry H. Treon, an amazing book from 1939 that I can't recommend enough. The ball-tailed cat is said to be a fair-sized animal, about the dimensions of a wild cat, looking very like it, but it's meant to have a far more aggressive disposition. And that disposition is linked to the very hard, heavy, bony club on the end of its tail, a bit like an ankylosaurus. It has clawed feet, like all cats, meaning that it's an excellent climber, and it's meant to have this very devious, stealthy habit of lying on the limb of a tree. And here's where the ball comes in. When an unsuspecting lumberjack passes beneath, the cat drops on its victim and uses this hard, bony club ball to pound him to death, killing him. Yes, the cat isn't one of those cats that hunts rabbits or hunts rats or hunts mice. No other prey is mentioned in the stories of it. It's exclusively meant to kill lumberjacks. I'm not sure how it survives. Maybe it feeds off the lumberjack over a long period. Maybe it digests the lumberjack and then, much like a camel, will slowly gain nutrients from it over time. Maybe there were many more lumberjacks back then than there are now, and that explains the decline in population because they've been starving to death. But either way, it will then, after beating the lumberjack to death, eat him. It will completely devour him, and then it will wait for the next victim. It could possibly have other prey, but Treon and the other people who mention it don't mention that prey in its sources. However, if you think that club is only useful for one thing, you're mistaken, because it also uses that club as an instrument to call on female cats by drumming on a hollow log. But this species in turn is fascinating because it's often been confused with other species, such as the silver cat, a cat-like mammal weighing about 300 pounds, which has tufted ears, red eyes with a strange horizontal slit, and a tail that can grow up to 11 feet in length, with, yes, a bony growth on the end which it uses for feeding. It's also been compared to the dingwall, which is a giant cat that sat on a giant rock in California and sat on it so prolifically that it's now called the Dingwall Rock. Those dingwalls had a wolf-like skin, a sad impression on their face. They sat spitting on a rock and studying the dirt and had a long tail that's half their body length with a spiky ball at the end. However, not in a predatory way, they used this tail to scare flies away and produce splinters to fill nests or burrows. And the male, once again, hit himself in the breast with his tail, so using the tail but in a different way, to attract the female and mate. So it didn't use the tail to knock on anything, it used the tail to knock on itself. So we can see that even though these creatures often don't necessarily prey on people, and even though they don't always necessarily look the same, it's very clear to me that much like the dinosaurs, even though these are separate species, they are clearly still species of the same common root. You've got the spiky tail, or the tail with the gigantic bony club. You've got the either antipathy or hostility towards strangers and outsiders. You've got the way they use the tail to knock and mate. You've got the huge size. To be honest, I can see why they're rare now, because think about it this way. Back in the frontier days, much of America was uncleared. It was forests all over. In this day and age, not much so. Towns have been built, motorways have been laid down, and also, we don't have so much need for lumberjacks, you know? We don't have so much need for those men in those cool flannel shirts, which I think are awesome, traipsing through the trees, cutting trees down, logging the trees. These days, we have bulldozers and other contraptions to do that job for us, and they can't eat bulldozers. Something tells me that even though there are cryptids out there like the axe handle hound that can eat axes, I don't think the ball-tailed cat could beat a bulldozer to death and could somehow deal damage to it. I don't think it could. Which brings up another question. Have these cats potentially been killed off over time by humans? Let's say A lumberjack with no gun and no defences is attacked by the bald-tailed cat. He's going to die, right? But let's say in this day and age with everyone armed, it attacks a lumberjack who's not only within a bulldozer and is clearing a path inside this huge behemoth, but he's also got a gun. Not only will the cryptid not even be able to break through the bulldozer's armour, but it might well be killed. So due to a combination of lack of lumberjacks, forests being cleared, and potential human hostility, much as there's hostility toward gorillas in the Amazon, it seems to me like this is why these creatures are rare. So what could the bald-tailed cat be if indeed it is real? I lean towards it being a tall tale. Lumberjacks, like I say in all my other videos, get around the campfire, they tell stories with beers, maybe someone's seen a bobcat in the shadows and they've mistaken it, then someone else tells the story and the story gets embellished and embellished and embellished. I think it's almost certainly, I don't want to say a hoax, but a fabrication over time. But what do you guys think? Do any of your relatives have stories that they've told from the old days? Any of your elderly relatives? Have any of you maybe seen one? Do any of you have any more information I've missed out? Please drop that in the comment section below and stay tuned for episode 51.